Liberate IT is an Oracle NetSuite solution provider that has been servicing Australian and New Zealand companies since 2011.
Hi there, my name is Julius Haralampo. As per the title of this video, we are indeed talking about digital transformation trends. We'll be taking a look at some of the cultural shifts and the emerging technologies that we're seeing change the way we do business today and in the future. Okay, I work for a company called Liberate I.T. We help take companies to the future. We don't do that by any means of time travel. We simply do it by helping them implement agile technologies, one of which is Oracle NetSuite, the #1 cloud-based ERP in the world. We help companies let go of QuickBooks, let go of MYOB. We say it's okay, you can let go of Xero. It's time for a big boy ERP system. We've worked with over 120 customers across Australia and New Zealand, from small startups to multinational enterprises. The nature of what we do is extremely flexible. Quick disclaimer, I've never actually been to the future. So if some of what I talk about today doesn't hold true in 5 years' time, don't hold it against me. There are plenty of technologies that become redundant just as fast as they become ubiquitous. The standalone GPS, the fax machine, the CD, all of these once heralded as space-age technologies, now predominantly used as landfill. A study done by Cisco in February 2021 showed that 94% of companies were more reliant on technology or had to further digitize their business in order to cope with the pandemic. The 6% that didn't rely more on technology were the likes of lawnmowers, hairdressers, mechanics. And over 80% of businesses believe that further digitalizing their companies will make them more resilient to market changes in the future. Okay, so this is the innovation adoption bell curve. It categorizes users into their willingness to accept new ideas and new technologies. We all sit somewhere in this model. My wife, for example, all the way over there on the left in the innovators category, has to have the brand new iWatch, the new iPhone, the robot vacuum cleaner, the video doorbell. And then there's my Uncle Con in the laggards category. He believes the internet will never really take off. He thinks emojis are stupid, and he very proudly still drives around with an old school Refidex in the passenger seat of his car. Bless him. This model also holds true for businesses. Over there on the left in the innovators category, there is Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Tesla. These are the luminaries, the front runners, the forward thinkers. These companies are changing the world and making lots of money in the process. And over there on the right, the rotting carcasses of Toys R Us, Kodak, and Blockbuster, failing to act when all the signs were there. We'll get more into their causes of death later on. May they rest in peace. Now, let's take a look at some of the common generation names in Australia. The reason we have this slide up is to highlight that while big companies are predominantly run by baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, they are mainly staffed by what we call the digital natives. Now, these are people who don't know a world without the internet, and they simply won't accept a workplace where technology isn't rapidly evolving and changing with the times. It's a very important mindset to understand when considering employee retention. I also just love the fact that the new generation are called Coronials. Absolutely adorably terrifying. All right, digital transformation trend #1, the remote worker. We know that people before the coronavirus were already working from home. The pandemic obviously had a massive shift, and all of a sudden it was required on a global scale. We know that job satisfaction has massively increased. Employees take less sick leave and less scheduled leave. When we take a look at the impact on businesses, 71% of executives reported that their employees were as productive, if not more productive, when working from home. And specifically looking into accounting and finance roles, around about 30% of accounting firms had the majority of their workforce working from home at least one day a week. And that figure has now changed to 69% of accounting companies having most of their workforce working from home at least one day a week. So in short, we are going to continue working from home, much to everyone's benefit. All right, digital transformation trend #2. We're looking at automation. Automation describes a wide range of technology that reduces human intervention in processes. Automation ultimately gives us the most precious resource of all, which is of course time. So looking at the Industrial Revolution, the technologies in the 18th and 19th century that powered forward industrial productivity, it gave us huge economic growth. There was a painful readjustment to the employment sector, and then there was a better quality of life for all of us. Jobs that have already been automated include telephone switchboard operators, cashiers, bank tellers, assembly line and factory workers, recycling sorters, and today even the stock traders, with over 75% of trades now being done by bots. Working on versus working in the business, this is referring to how automation can help managers and leaders steer the ship rather than be a slave to the oars. Robotic automation, we are going to touch on that a few slides down the track. Automation mentality, this is referring to businesses who are all about bringing in technology that's going to save them time to help the business push forward, to help the people in the business focus on strategic thinking rather than being stuck working in the business. And automation software brings us to the next slide, where we're going to take a look at just some of the examples of what software can now automate for us. Putting reports together, no one really enjoys it. Now we don't have to do that as much since there are live dashboards that give you real-time data and you can customize them so they will give you whatever data displayed in any way you want, however often you want them. Accounts payable, this poor soul slowly deteriorating away under a mountain of paperwork. With accounts payable automation software, he can then refocus his day on less laborious tasks. Usually after an ERP implementation, the accounts payable staff are often the first ones to be reassigned. And if there are any accounts payable staff out there watching today, we will find you and we will automate you. In terms of customer surveys, you just don't need to do them anymore. Webmetrics are going to pull all the information and more that you could ever imagine about your customers, your prospects, your clients, their buying behaviors, their demographics, all of that good stuff without them having to manually fill out any surveys. And of course, that feeds into the customer engagement piece, which is based on their buying behavior, based on their purchases, targeted offers, seasonal messaging, auto responses, tracking updates, all of this good stuff that if you're still doing this manually, it's not just not allowing the company to scale, you are no longer going to be competitive. So all of this automation software allows companies to simply not have to think about certain things. They just happen in the background. I won't dive too deeply into this slide, but I'll summarize it by saying, as accountants, you have to understand that the digital natives get it. And all they want to do is simplify and automate processes. And it's up to you, the finance leaders, to facilitate this mindset and also guide them through that change management journey. All right, digital transformation trend number 3, it is the CFO of the future. The role of the CFO has really evolved, with modern finance leaders now expected to spend a growing amount of time fulfilling non-finance tasks, including driving innovation, business transformation, and strategy. A study done by NetSuite shows that 77% of CFOs are driving organizations' adoption of digital solutions to improve efficiency and productivity. And 61% of CFOs are working with their CIOs to plug into the data in order to direct investment and identify risk. CFOs now have to navigate new initiatives like work from home, like automation, which brings us to our next slide. Trend number 4, it is the decentralized business model. So a decentralized approach is where a business allows decisions to be made by managers and subordinates further down the chain. It can be very similar to the hierarchical structure of a centralized business, but the organizational structure allows more decision-making responsibilities for everyone within the company. And a major benefit of a decentralized business model is that localized leaders can more quickly adapt to changes in the market. It also helps boost morale in the business, as all the staff believe they have a much stronger involvement in the success or failure of the company. It leans towards a more location-independent model with staff working from home and being connected with a cloud-based system and assets and employees conversing over the likes of Teams, Zooms, and various video conferencing apps. Here is an example of a decentralized business called Liberate I.T, very much practicing what they preach. From day one, we have been using Oracle NetSuite, a cloud-based system. It's the first and the last ERP we will ever need. We have over 35 staff, all working from home. We don't have a head office. We don't have most of our staff pushing for sales. We are predominantly a service-based organization. We do communicate over the likes of Zoom meetings. Staff morale is really high, excessively fantastic, wonderful retention rates, very little burnout when you have a decentralized business model. Digital transformation trend number 5, it is the acceleration of cloud adoption. It's been massively sped up thanks to COVID-19 for obvious reasons. The cloud computing market now valued at $330 billion. And the stats say it is set to grow at a compounding annual rate of 18%. 90% of companies are running at least some function of their business in the cloud. That stat is actually from 2019. I can only imagine how close it is to 100% now. In 2020, 50% of companies moved more of their workload onto cloud-based applications. It is no wonder why. Let's touch very quickly on the benefits of cloud-based computing. It is usually a lot cheaper than any on-premise technology. You don't have to pay for big, bulky servers or anything within the office. It is a lot safer in the cloud. No one can break in and steal the data from your computer. Systems like Oracle NetSuite have two-factor authentication, very strong password policy, 256-bit encrypted data, and the data centers themselves are pretty much bulletproof. You basically need to be a Decepticon to break into them. They've got 24/7 armed guards security, 24/7 surveillance, biometric authentication to get in and out of the building. In terms of mobility and cloud-based computing, of course, everyone's using their mobile phones, their iPads, whether they are working from home or they're working from the client side or a cafe. You don't need to bring your work PC with you. Flexibility in terms of upgrading a cloud-based platform, you can add on, you can subtract the modules that you want. Also, nobody needs to come out and upgrade your system. With applications like NetSuite, you're always going to be on the latest version. That goes the same for most cloud-based applications. In terms of quality control, all of a sudden with cloud-based computing, you now have a clear record of all revisions and updates. Also, with everyone accessing the same information, you can maintain data consistency and avoid human error in that way. Loss prevention. Fun fact, before COVID, over 10,000 laptops were reported missing at airports. If that was your main business machine, the very essence of your business is evaporated. With cloud-based computing, if your business is hit by a flood, a storm, volcano, earthquake, meteorite, you simply open up a new machine and bang, you've got access to all of your data once again. I won't dive into all of these cloud-based applications, but imagine trying to do business without them. You probably wouldn't have a business. It's digital transformation trend number 6. Robotics. We already know that robotic workforces have helped make Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos some of the richest men in the world. Tesla has robots assembling cars at phenomenal speed and accuracy. Amazon has robots picking, packing, and dispatching with similar efficiencies. More and more robots are starting to appear in warehouses, in factories, in construction sites, in schools, in hospitals. Let's take a look at some of the emerging robotic technologies we're seeing in businesses today. At Tesla, the production process starts with a coil of aluminium, which is flattened, cut with lasers, and pressed into shape, creating a new part every 6 seconds. More robots then put the parts together and pass it on to a team of spray painting robots. The shell of the car then moves through general assembly and onto an autonomous cart. One robot installs the seats and the windshields, applying glue before attaching it to the car. All in all, it takes just 3 days to make a Tesla Model 3. And these manufacturing robots are essentially building a fleet of their own robots, with all Teslas now having the ability to fully self-drive in most situations. Okay, so this is Stretch. It's a robot designed by Boston Dynamics to automate box moving tasks in warehouse and distribution centers. It has a mobile base, allowing it to relocate where repetitive box lifting is required. unloading trucks, stacking pallets of boxes, and order building. Stretch makes warehouse operations more effective and safer for workers. Now, just like how the shipping container transformed how global commerce functioned, warehouse and distribution robots are set to be the next big game changer. Worldwide sales of warehousing and logistic robots hit a respectable $1.9 billion in 2016. It is now at $22.4 billion in 2020. These things are truly game changers. This is a Victorian dairy farm that has made the move towards automation by eliminating all human beings working on the premises. The cattle on the farm, which involves almost no one, are woken, fed, and milked autonomously. Fun fact, in 1790, 90% of the Australian workforce worked within the agricultural sector. Today, in 2021, that number is just 2.5%. Look what automation has done. By the way, if that footage creeped you out at all, it was a toss-up between that or a robotic-powered abattoir, and seeing mammals much larger than us being slaughtered en masse with industrial efficiency by robots was absolutely spine-chilling. And lastly, at the Royal Adelaide Hospital, robots have changed the way nurses perform their daily duties. These robots deliver trolleys with goods, linen, meals, pharmacy, waste, and supplies to staff and patients. More and more hospitals are looking to introduce these trolley bots in order to reduce the amount of manual work that staff are required to do, providing them now with more time to focus on patient care. So this slide shows the natural progression of technology. Some of you may remember the old mobile phones. They were big, they were clunky, they did a single purpose very, very well, and that was to make calls. Fast forward to 2021, where we have the smartphones that do so many different things, and so many individual functions have now been amalgamated into the one system. We will start to see the same with robots. Right now we have large, loud, single-purpose machines. A lot of different functions will start amalgamating into the one robot. They will be incredibly efficient, they'll be super intelligent, and they can learn and perform a variety of tasks with extreme efficiency. And of course, what comes after that? They become self-aware, they enslave us before ultimately exterminating us and becoming the new dominant species of our planet. All right, digital transformation trend number 7. It's the Internet of Things. It's a bit of a grammatically awkward term, but it essentially means devices that connect to a network. So these devices gather data about how they're being used, they gather data about the environment and sometimes even the user that is operating them, and then they feed this data back up to the cloud. So it's the ever-growing web of devices ranging from smartphones to smart factories, smart robots, and then there's smart homes with smart fridges, smart ovens, smart lights, and then we have smart cities with smart cars, smart traffic lights, and smart sensors everywhere. Now let's take a look at an Internet of Things business case. In the air conditioning manufacturing industry, both the manufacturing machine and the belt have sensors attached. They continually send data regarding the machine held and the production specifics to the manufacturer to identify issues beforehand. A barcode is attached to each product before leaving the belt. It contains the product code, manufacturing details, and special instructions, etc. The manufacturers use the details to identify where the product is distributed to, hence the retailer never running out of inventory. The manufacturer then uses these details to identify where the product is distributed and tracks the retailer's inventory, hence the manufacturer never running out of stock available. The air conditioning units actually let the manufacturer know when they are in need of a service so that the manufacturer can be proactive about ongoing maintenance. So this means less paperwork, less manually collating data, less running service tests. It's more efficient and saves time for everyone involved. So the experts say that right now in 2021, there's over 40 billion devices connected to the cloud in some way. Keep in mind, all of your phones, your laptops, your smart fridges, there are factories out there with hundreds of devices in them. There are battlefields with thousands of devices feeding information back up to the cloud. Farms, some of them have in excess of 100,000 Internet of Things sensors. So it really does affect businesses in a very, very big way when you consider all of that data is getting fed back to them and they can make better decisions in that way and then feed automation. So all of that data is transmitted across networks, which feeds into our next point, which is digital transformation trend number 8. It's 5G internet. Yes, 5G is here. No, it is not going to fry your brains. If 2G brought us SMS and picture messaging, 3G was all about mobile internet, and 4G made streaming and sharing part of everyday life. 5G stands for the 5th generation and is the next step forward in mobile technology. The rollout of 5G is taking a while, but we are already at 50% coverage of the Australian population. By the end of this year, we should be at 75% coverage. Nothing has improved in such an enormous magnitude as what mobile internet has. Picture the same for air travel. If a flight that in the year 2000 took 12 hours, in the year 2020, all of a sudden takes 3 seconds. It really is astronomical improvement. Now, 5G internet facilitates enormous data sets flying around the air, which of course can be the target of hackers, which is a great segue into our next slide. Digital transformation trend number 9, we're talking about cybersecurity. Amidst the chaos of COVID-19, hackers were having an absolute field day. Employees were getting emails from what they thought was their boss saying, hey, click on this link. It is our new COVID policy. Of course, it was a phishing scam. Also, with so many employees working from home outside of the safety of the office network, hackers were using that as a way to penetrate big company systems. Another sort of attack includes Wi-Fi traps. When workers work out of cafes and other public places, hackers will deploy what's called a Wi-Fi trap. They set up a network which has a stronger signal than the cafe that everyone's working from. Because it's a stronger signal, the machine will prioritize that one. They'll have the same password that's often displayed within the cafe itself. And a very well-deployed Wi-Fi trap can let a hacker access hundreds of devices per day. Another form of attack involves people dropping into Zoom meetings. Keep in mind that if your Zoom meetings aren't manually set to private, they are a public link that anybody can join. We've seen lots of experiences where people are having a Zoom meeting and a guest will jump in with no microphone on, no webcam on, simply listening in to valuable company information. Cybersecurity is more of an issue now than ever, as we have seen countless examples of what it can do to businesses. We know that hackers can crash websites, they can steal customer details, including contact details, credit card numbers. They can take control of business systems, they can steal digital assets, they can delete digital assets, they can destroy business reputation. And if you're thinking, look, I don't really understand cybersecurity, it's not really my thing, imagine not fully understanding who had the keys to your front door or where all of the access points were in your house. You probably wouldn't be sitting so comfortably then. Now, we only ever really hear about the cybersecurity attacks on big businesses, but according to the Verizon 2019 data breach investigation reports, 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses. Cyber attacks cost Australian businesses $29 billion each year. Let's just take a look at some of these attacks on businesses that have happened this year, not to mention the very long list of attacks that I mentioned in 2020. It just keeps on going and going and going. Take cybersecurity seriously. And finally, digital transformation trend number 10. It is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So if robots replace the physical activities that humans are paid to do, AI and machine learning aim to ease the cognitive processes, including learning, planning, and problem solving. True artificial intelligence algorithms, they learn over time and they get better at what they do the more often they do it. Let's take a quick look at where we see AI and machine learning today in the business sense. If you've ever received a targeted ad, that is usually because some form of algorithm has learned your behavior and learned your particular interests. In terms of better business security, AI can better help early identify hackers and then proactively set up defense mechanisms against cyber attacks. Recruitment and HR, I'm sure a lot of you have already received job offers and job ads on LinkedIn. That's usually because of an AI algorithm. In terms of the other side of that, the recruiters, they use AI to sort through mountains of resumes and to better identify employee and workplace fits. Faster mobile interaction. What do we mean by that? The voice recognition is a form of AI. AI can learn your voice better and learn from your conversations better, meaning that your mobile phone can then start narrating your calls for you, setting calendar appointments, sending out emails in accordance to the conversations you're having on the phone, which feeds into the customer relationship management piece. A lot of CRMs require a lot of manual entry. When you have an AI algorithm recognizing your voice and your conversations over the phone, it starts then manually updating your CRM for you to better free up your time. So your mobile phone is all of a sudden acting like a PA and a data entry clerk, allowing you to just get on with your business. So this is Deep Knowledge Ventures. They are a Hong Kong-based investment fund. They have recently appointed the very first AI director. It's tasked with consuming data about life science companies and then voting on which companies are good investments. The company says that it relies on artificial intelligence recommendations by refraining from making any investments that the AI doesn't approve. It's predicted that we're going to see a lot more AI presence in the boardroom, with artificial intelligence spending expected to double in the next 4 years. And keep in mind, at the moment, the AI market is at $55 billion. So there are 3 types of artificial intelligence. Narrow AI is the only type of AI we have successfully realized to date. It is goal-orientated and designed to perform singular tasks like facial recognition, speech recognition, voice assistance, driving a car, or searching the internet. It's very intelligent at completing specific tasks that it's programmed to do. So narrow AI doesn't mimic or replicate human intelligence. It merely simulates human behavior based on a very narrow set of parameters and contexts. So examples of narrow AI include Siri by Apple, Alexa by Amazon, Cortana by Microsoft, and other virtual assistants. There's also IBM's Watson. There's facial recognition software, disease mapping and prediction tools, entertainment or marketing content recommendations based on what you watch or listen, and self-driving cars. Now, artificial general intelligence is the concept of machines that mimic human intelligence and/or behaviors with the ability to learn and apply its intelligence to solve any problem. Artificial general intelligence can think, it can understand, and can act in a way which is indistinguishable from any human in any given situation. And then there's artificial superintelligence that can surpass the capacity of the collective human intelligence and ability. So in addition to replacing the multifaceted intelligence of human beings, artificial superintelligence would theoretically be exceedingly better at everything we do, including maths, science, sports, art, medicine, hobbies, emotional relationships, absolutely everything. Now, the potential of having such powerful machines at our disposal is super exciting, but the concept also has a lot of other unknown consequences, including they become self-aware, they enslave us before ultimately exterminating us and becoming the new dominant species of our planet. Now, change management is something organizations have to really consider when embarking on a digital transformation. A lot of companies very quickly realized that their on-premise technology was simply not allowing a lot of the staff to work from home, and they had to very quickly scramble for a new solution. We need to recognize that there's more risk now than there ever was before, whether it's because of cybersecurity threats or because of the changes that are forced upon us more so now than ever before. There's now the risk of not adopting technology fast enough. May I remind you that most of these dead companies died not because of what they did, but it's because of what they didn't do. Toys R Us took far too long to launch an e-commerce presence, Kodak completely missing the boat on digital cameras, and Blockbuster turning down a chance to buy Netflix. They said, no thanks, our business model works just fine the way it is. So these are the 5 most common transformation challenges. These were identified by an organization called Third Stage Consulting, which are a digital transformation firm based out of Colorado. Okay, data migration, cleansing, mapping, and moving legacy data to a new ERP system is always easier said than done. Clarity of business process. Organizations that didn't take the time to really define a future state of business always struggled a lot more than those that did. Managing system integrators. When businesses completely outsource their systems integrations, things usually go wrong. Objective misalignment. So many CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, and project teams struggle with transformations that did not support or align with their broader strategic objectives. And the number one challenge in digital transformations is the organizational change and the people part of the transformation. You can hard code a process, you cannot hard code people. So whether it is intentional resistance or just minor misunderstandings, people and cultural change was and is the biggest challenge in terms of digital transformations. So when it comes to organizational change, these are the 4 types of staff personas. There are the resistors, the ones intentionally resisting the change. They want to keep doing things the way they've always done it. They will sit there with their arms folded and not budge. There are the casualties, and there are casualties, people who are negatively impacted by that organizational change. And then there's the bystanders, the ones who will sit back and wait to form an opinion on what's happening. And then there's the adopters, the early adopters, the ones who are championing the change and want to see the organization progress forward and really absorb this new technology into its business ethos. Now, the goal of people who are leading these transformations is to identify and engage these early adopters as change champions. It can have an extremely dramatic impact on the adoption and the momentum of the transformation program. And then we want to acknowledge and reward those early adopters for being the change champions and helping that business push forward into the future. These are some of the change management objectives that we hear on a daily basis. People say we're doing fine without it. I don't want to learn new things. We've always done it this way. I'd rather be watching The Bachelor. We hear that more times than you'd think. This is the journey that we take people on when embarking on digitally transforming their business. Know that it is a very structured process, and it usually starts with identifying a pain point or a bottleneck in the business, and then us coming in once they have defined their vision and they've had a budget approved. We know that buying business technology isn't a quick sales process. There are initial scoping sessions involved, live demonstrations are needed, and often a lot of coordination between internal and external departments. And then there's the implementation, which is always easier said than done. And then finally, all of the angst and excitement of the go live. And our job is to achieve all of this with minimal operational disruption. So then what is your role as accountants, as numbers people? Is it your job to drive innovation in the business? Some would argue yes. As why else do we digitally transform businesses if not to improve the numbers? In an economic landscape where technology is changing now faster than it ever has before and rapidly advancing and changing the way we do business, it's up to the finance leaders to help understand that technology and then help facilitate the implementations of that technology to help power businesses forward into the future. Thank you for listening.
We hope this video gave you the information you were after. If you have any further questions, get in touch with us using the links in the description. At Liberate IT, we can provide free consulting to understand your business system requirements, understand your company growth plans, and provide free NetSuite demonstrations. For more information, visit our website.